All right, so when we left off in our last video, we were doing intersection detection. So you can see here that my rocket and asteroid have a white background if they are not intersecting and a red background if they are. However, we also looked at the fact that the way that our rectangles are set up, a rocket has a lot of white space around it. So you can see here that while it's detecting the intersection of their rectangles, it's not actually accurately detecting that the rocket is touching the asteroid. So we're going to, in this video, actually make our intersections more advanced and make them more accurate in detecting collisions. So the reason that we're having those incorrect or those inaccurate detections is because if you look at the rocket itself, it's contained inside this rectangle, and we're currently using this rectangle to actually detect an intersection. So there's white space all around that rectangle here. You can see that, and we're going to now try and fix that. And we're going to do that by using two rectangles. So this big rectangle is the one that holds our rocket. And what we're going to do is we're essentially going to place imaginary rectangles over the spots where we want the detection to actually occur. So where we want those intersections to be detected, we're going to look for these two rectangles instead. So that's kind of where we're headed, how we can use our knowledge of rectangles to say, well, this one rectangle holds the picture, but these two little ones, they're used to actually detect a more accurate intersection. And you can see here that paint will make our lives a lot easier. So I'm going to advise you to actually upload the rocket image into Paint so that you can follow along. And I'm going to advise you to use this for future projects as well so that you can make your intersections more accurate. Now, we're going to need three rectangles in this program. We're going to need one that holds the entire image. We're going to need two that detect that more accurate intersection. So that's what we're going to need. We'll need one that holds this entire thing, and then two little ones for detecting our intersection. So what we're going to do is we're going to add those into our program. I call them Rocket Rect 1 and Rocket Rect 2 to basically say, well, these go along with the rocket picture, and they're being used to detect more accurate intersections. So if you open up that program it's for lesson 5. So if you open that back up, we're going to add in those two rectangles. So I have rectangle for Rocket Rect 1, and that's for accurate intersection. Then I'm going to have another rectangle, Rocket Rect 2, again for accurate intersection. So from here, I've now added these rectangles into our program. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to pretend I'm getting ready to initialize them as well. So I have Rocket Rect 1 is equal to new rectangle. And then I'm going to have 4 parameters that I add inside of it. I just haven't decided those yet. Then I have Rocket Rect 2. And again, I'm going to create a rectangle for that, but I need to add those parameters inside as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my PowerPoints to help me out, but you can do this directly in Paint. So what you'll see here is I have a rectangle right now that has a width of 200 and a height of 100. So I'm going to use the dimensions in here to kind of try and guess where this rectangle should be located and its height as well as its width. So I can see here, first of all, that its x coordinate, so this x coordinate of this upper left-hand corner is exactly the same as my original rectangle. So they have the same x coordinate, but its y coordinate is 30 pixels down, which means we need to add 30 to its y coordinate. So to find the location of this, it should be the same x value, but 30 added to the y value. So if I go into my program, this is the current location of that big rectangle, and I know they have the same x value, but I've added 30 to the y value, and I can see that directly here in my picture. I can see that it starts 30 pixels below. Then from here, I need to find the width and the height of that rectangle, and I can see my width, if I follow, goes 0 to 180. So I have a width of 180 and a height that goes approximately from 30 to 70. So a height of approximately 40 pixels. So width 180, height of 40. So if I go back into Monogame, I have a width of 180 and a height of 40. So I've now started Rocket Rect 1 in its location and have a width and a height for it. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the second rectangle. I'm going to use Paint to help me out. So move over here, I notice that its x coordinate is approximately 115 pixels to the right, so I'll need to add 115. And then from here, its y coordinate is actually the same as this big rectangle. So add 115 and then keep y the same. So if I go into monogame, the second one, I add 115 to where that original rectangle was. So that has 715. Then it has the same y coordinate of 100. You can see that right here. Then from here, I need to find the height and the width. So I see 115 to about 165. So it's got a width of 50 pixels. And then a height, I can see it has this height of 100 pixels. So I go back in and I have a width of 50 and a height of 100. So now I've added these into my program. Now if I press start and I try and move my rocket over, I am assuming that it's going to detect accurate detection. So I place those rectangles in a good spot. However, my intersection still isn't being accurate. And there's a reason for that. What we also need to do is we need to make sure that these two rectangles move along with this one right here. So we need to make sure that they move together. So here we're going to go down into our code, and wherever we programmed rocket rect, the original, to move, we need to also program rocket rect 1 to move in the same way and rocket rect 2 to move in the same way. So I want the y coordinate to move down here, and then I'm going to copy that code and say the same thing here, but for rocket rect 2. And then here I can copy and paste these two and then change the correct attribute. So here I know I want y to increase, y to increase. And then here I want x to decrease. And here I want x to increase. So notice here that even though I don't have comments in, this is moving the original rectangle. And then right on top of it, we want to be moving rectangle 1 for detection. And we want to move rectangle 2 for detection. So we're moving these rectangles with the original image and the original picture. So we want them to move the same so that they are accurately detecting those intersections. And then I can copy and paste these comments the same for all of these 4 sections of code down here. Just for the essence of time, I'll let you copy and paste those down so that you can keep moving forward in the video. So now if I press start, what I expect to happen is that my rocket intersection will be more accurate. Those rectangles have been placed over my rocket to detect intersection. But it's still not working. So while those rectangles are now moving, we have another thing we actually need to change. And if we look down here at the rocket rec intersects part, it's still intersecting our rocket rectangle. So we need to change this a little bit. We need to say that rocket rect 1 is intersecting the asteroid rectangle, or rocket rect 2 is intersecting that asteroid rectangle. So this is where you want to make sure that you are changing all pieces of your code that go along with it. The movement of those rectangles with your original, the intersections, making sure we're detecting the intersections of those rectangles that we created for intersection, not the picture one, and then making sure that we place them in an accurate location as well. So now if I run my program, the last piece here, I'm gonna start moving it down. So here I expect it to intersect, but now see how close I can get with the addition of my rectangle. So it's not going to be perfect, you'll see that, but it's considerably more accurate than it was before. So now what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you do this on your own using a flag and a bird and seeing if you can make accurate intersections, just like I did with the rocket and the asteroid, for a flag and a bird. So best of luck, and let me know how I can help.